Patty Loveless was born as Patricia Lee Ramey on January 4, 1957, in Pikeville, Kentucky. She grew up in a tiny coal mining town called Elkhorn City, surrounded by Kentucky's beautiful mountains. In those hills, you could always hear bluegrass music, gospel songs, and old country tunes. Her dad, John Ramey, worked in the coal mines, and he got really sick from breathing in coal dust. This disease, called black lung, hurt their whole family badly. Later on, Patty would write many sad but powerful songs about hard times, losing people you love, and never giving up. Her mom, Naomi, helped Patty fall in love with singing. She encouraged Patty to sing harmony with her big sister, Dottie. Those family singing times at home became the building blocks of Patty's singing style, full of emotion, real feelings, and true to who she was. When Patty was a teenager, she looked up to country music stars like Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton. Both of these women were also from Kentucky and came from families without much money, but they became huge stars. This inspired Patty to believe she could do it too. She started performing with her brother Roger, who played guitar and helped manage her early singing career. In the early 1970s, Patty and Roger took trips to Nashville, where Roger knew some important people through his work with the Wilburn brothers. During one of those trips, young Patty sang backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, and Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton heard her. Meeting them made Patty believe she really could make it in the music business. Patty's early career was pretty tough. When she was a teenager, she got married to a man named Terry Loveless. She took his last name and changed it a little to create her stage name, Loveless. Patty and Terry performed together in small clubs all across the South, mixing rock and country music. But their marriage didn't work out, and Patty went back home to Kentucky to figure things out. Her brother Roger encouraged her again to follow her Nashville dreams. By the mid-1980s, she was singing regularly in Music City. Her strong emotional voice caught the attention of MCA Records, and they signed her in 1985. Her first albums, including If My Heart Had Windows in 1988 and Honky Tonk Angel in 1988, showed everyone that a major new talent had arrived. Songs like Chains, Timber I'm Falling in Love, and Don't Toss Us Away became hits and proved that Loveless was one of the best voices in the neo-traditional country movement. This movement brought country music back to its original roots in the late 1980s. The 1990s were the best years of Patty Loveless's success, both in sales and in her art. Her albums during these years, Only What I Feel in 1993, When Fallen Angels Fly in 1994, and The Trouble with the Truth in 1996, showed how amazing she was at singing songs with honest emotion and strength. Songs like How Can I Help You Say Goodbye, Blame It on Your Heart, and You Don't Even Know Who I Am became her most famous hits. They mixed heartbreak, strength, and caring in ways that really touched people's hearts. Music critics loved how she could completely become the song, making the words come alive through her voice that could sound both vulnerable and powerful at the same time. She worked closely with a producer named Emery Gordy Jr., who later became her husband. Together, they created some of the most beautiful and emotionally deep country music of the whole decade. They made music that sounded both classic and modern, appealing to people who loved traditional country and new fans too. Loveless became known as one of country music's most real storytellers. Unlike some other singers who tried to make pop music to get more famous, Patty stayed true to her roots. She often went back to her Appalachian heritage in her music. Her 2001 album, Mountain Soul, was a really important project that mixed bluegrass instruments with country storytelling. Critics loved it. The album showed her deep connection to growing up in Kentucky, with songs about faith, family, and the beauty of country life. She later made Mountain Soul 2 in 2009, showing even more how good she was at traditional sounds that had shaped her life. These albums made her reputation solid as someone who connected country and bluegrass music, celebrated for keeping the soul of the music alive while still making it fresh. Throughout her career, Patty Loveless has won many awards, including several from the Country Music Association, CMA, and the Academy of Country Music, ACM. She was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry in 1988, which was one of her proudest moments. It made a childhood dream come true. Even though she became famous, she always stayed humble and down-to-earth, staying connected to her Kentucky roots. People in the industry know her for being kind and real in a business where people can have big egos. Other artists often praise her for being generous and quietly strong. Vince Gill, one of her longtime singing partners, once said that Loveless sings with the heart of the mountains in her voice. Many people who have heard her perform live agree with him. In her later years, Patty slowly stepped away from the spotlight, choosing to focus more on her family and personal peace instead of chart success. But she has kept making special appearances, reminding fans of her amazing talent. In 2023, she performed with Chris Stapleton and Dwight Yoakam at the CMA Awards. Her voice was just as powerful and emotional as ever, and she made the audience cry. That performance reminded everyone why she's still one of the greatest country music singers in history. Patty Loveless's personal life has mostly been kept private and away from gossip magazines, but it has really shaped both her art and her emotional depth as a country singer. Her experiences with love, heartbreak, and finally finding a lasting partnership are like the heartfelt storytelling in her music. Throughout her life, she's been married twice, first to Terry Loveless and later to Emery Gordy Jr., who became not just her life partner but also her creative partner and one of the most important people in her musical journey. Her first marriage was to Terry Loveless, whom she married in 1976 when she was still a young woman trying to find her place in the competitive world of country music. Loveless was a drummer and musician himself and shared Patty's early love of performing. They met while she was still building her career, and their relationship started during a time when she was searching for her musical identity. In many ways, their marriage was about youthful dreams and the struggles of two artists trying to make a name in Nashville. Patty and Terry performed together in local bands before she got famous, and Loveless's musical background helped her learn about performing on stage, touring, and the pressures of life on the road. But as Patty's career started demanding more of her focus and energy, the marriage began to have problems because of the pressures of the music industry. Being apart for long times, money problems, and the emotional stress of a changing career all hurt their relationship. Loveless's early years in Nashville were filled with both hope and disappointment. She got rejected by record labels and dealt with the uncertainty of trying to build a career in country music. These hard times definitely affected her marriage. By 1986, after 10 years together, the couple decided to get divorced. Even though their marriage ended, that time in her life would deeply influence her songwriting. She later put the pain of lost love and personal struggle into some of her most moving performances. After her divorce, Patty went through a few difficult years of rebuilding her personal and professional life. But it was during this time of soul-searching and starting over that she met Emery Gordy Jr. He was a talented musician, songwriter, and record producer who was already well known in country music. Gordy had played bass guitar for artists like Elvis Presley and Emmylou Harris and had worked a lot in recording studios and production. When he and Patty started working together professionally, they quickly realized they shared not just musical chemistry but also a deep emotional connection. Their creative partnership grew strong. Gordy understood Patty's voice, her storytelling instincts, and her emotional range like very few others could. In 1989, Patty Loveless married Emery Gordy Jr., starting what would become one of the most stable and lasting marriages in country music. Their relationship marked a new chapter of personal peace and artistic success for Loveless. After decades of friendship, musical collaboration, and shared respect, country legend Patty Loveless has finally opened up about her long and meaningful relationship with Vince Gill, both as artists and as people. Though both have always kept their bond professional and based on admiring each other, Loveless recently shared a rare, heartfelt reflection on what Gill has meant to her career and her life. "Vince has always been more than just a duet partner," Loveless said softly. "He's been a friend who stood by me when the spotlight dimmed, when I doubted myself, and when I needed to remember why I fell in love with music in the first place." Loveless's voice, known for its emotional purity, carried that same honesty as she spoke about the years she and Gill shared stages across the country. The two first worked together in the early 1990s when both were at the top of their country music fame. Their duets, such as "My Kind of Woman, My Kind of Man," became instant classics, praised for their perfect harmonies and the unspoken chemistry that made their performances feel almost spiritual. "When Vince and I sang together," she remembered, "it wasn't just two voices. It was two hearts speaking the same language. There was something natural about it. We didn't have to plan or force anything. It just happened." Loveless credits Gill with being one of the few artists who truly understood her as both a performer and a person. "Vince knew how to bring out the best in me," she said. "He pushed me to trust my instincts and sing from a deeper place. That's a rare gift. Not every musician gets to find someone who inspires that level of honesty in their art." She described how during recording sessions, Gill would often stand quietly in the booth with his eyes closed, listening with full attention. Afterward, he'd say words that struck right to the core. He'd say, "Patty, don't overthink it. Just tell the story." And that's exactly what I'd do. Over the years, their professional partnership grew into a deep and lasting friendship, built on trust and admiring each other rather than competing. Loveless admitted that the country music world can be tough, especially for women. But having an ally like Vince Gill made a world of difference. "In this business, you meet a lot of people who smile for the cameras but disappear when things get hard," she said. Vince was never that kind of person. He's steady, grounded, and kind. "When my husband, Emery, and I went through tough times, health problems, loss, or just the struggles of getting older in this industry, Vince was always there. He'd call, check in, offer a word of encouragement. He's one of those rare souls who gives without expecting anything back." When asked about how their friendship has lasted over the years, especially as both artists have taken quieter paths in recent times, Loveless reflected with deep gratitude. "We've both seen a lot of change in country music, in our lives, in ourselves. But no matter how much the world moves on, I can always count on Vince. He's still the same gentle spirit who believes in the power of a good song and a good heart." Her tone grew tender as she added, "I don't think I'd still be singing if it weren't for people like him, reminding me that music is about connection, not charts, not fame, just love." Loveless also spoke about their emotional performance together at George Jones's 2013 funeral, where she and Gill moved the audience to tears with "Go Rest High on That Mountain." The song, already one of Gill's most beloved works, took on new meaning that day. "That performance wasn't planned to be what it became," she explained. "Vince started to break down while singing, and I just followed my heart. I reached for the harmony, and somehow the music carried both of us through. I'll never forget that moment. It reminded me of the sacred power of music to heal, even when words fail." Looking back, Loveless admits she treasures her friendship with Gill as one of the most important relationships of her life. "He's family," she said simply. "Not by blood, but by bond. We've walked through so much together, the highs, the heartbreaks, the quiet years. There's a kind of peace that comes from knowing someone like Vince is in your corner." As she reflects on her legacy, Loveless is quick to give credit to those who shaped her path, and Gill remains at the top of that list. "The world knows Vince as a great musician, and he is. But I know him as something even greater, a man who never forgot where he came from, who treats people with respect, and who uses his gifts to lift others up. I'll always be thankful for that." After years of silence, Patty Loveless's words paint a portrait not just of artistic partnership but of genuine human connection, one that has endured through the ever-changing tides of fame and time. And in speaking up at last, Loveless reminds her fans of something deeply true, that the heart of country music isn't just in the songs, but in the people who live them with grace, humility, and love.